Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't read guide for G'huun, the final boss in Uldir. Phase 1 has a lot of ads that constantly spawn. Cyclopean Terrors are the only ones that do not need to be tanked. Interrupt their torment channel as often as possible. These are your number one priority unless a blight spread or tendril is active, which is only on heroic. Interrupt its decaying eruption cast because it's a raid-wide AoE. At 0 energy, it will burrow underground and spawn in a new location. Your last kill target is the Dark Young. Their massive smash ability hits the tank hard and knocks them back. When they get 100 energy, stand in the purple circle during their Dark Bargain cast. Any player or any ad caught in this will get a 30-second buff that increases your damage taken but also increases your healing and damage done. Make sure not to get 2 stacks of this or else you'll get mind controlled and you'll need to be killed. G'huun isn't active in the fight but puts explosive corruption on up to 3 players. If you get this, you have 5 seconds to run away from the raid, ideally to a wall. When it expires, it drops a puddle on the floor and shoots 5 orbs out of you. If anyone touches these orbs, they get a debuff on them as well. This ability happens throughout the entire fight in every phase. To progress into phase 2, you'll need to assign at least 3 people to run the orbs that spawn on either the left or right side of the room. Demon Hunters and Warriors can solo this if each side has a Warlock portal. If you don't have that raid comp, you can send 2 people per orb. One of these people will probably need to be a healer or a class with good self-healing. When you pick up the orb, your movement speed will be decreased by 20% every 2 seconds. In addition to that, you need to move through spores in the area which deal damage to you and slow your speed by 75% while you stand in their puddles. If you attack these spores, the puddles begin to shrink, so if you're 2-manning this, the person not holding the orb should be clearing a path for the Orb Runner. Once the runner can no longer move, they can use the extra action button they have to throw it up to 20 yards. This will create a yellow swirly on the ground and the other person needs to stand in this to catch the orb. If the orb is not caught, it is destroyed. As soon as you've held the orb, you can't pick it up again from the start of the gauntlet for 5 minutes. To clarify, you can throw it back and forth between these 2 people as much as you want, but you won't be able to pick up the orb from where it spawns for 5 minutes. You want to complete this gauntlet as quickly as possible because you take damage every 2 seconds while you're up here. At the end of it, there is a reorigination drive that you need to click to deposit the orb. A few seconds after it's been deposited, an orb will spawn on the other side of the room. When 3 orbs have been deposited, all the ads will be stunned for 24 seconds and take 100% more damage. Kill them quickly and stack up for heals because the raid will take damage every 6 seconds. The puddles from explosive corruption will also disappear. After this, G'huun will emerge from his cave. You'll need a second group of Orb Runners to once again run the orbs just like in the first phase. G'huun's melee attacks give him a stacking buff that increases the damage of them. Tank swap around 4 stacks. When a new target is hit, the stacks will reset. Stay spread out 5 yards in this phase to avoid doing extra damage and knocking back members of your raid when the boss does Wave of Corruption. Each time you take damage from this, you obtain a permanent stacking dot. Stay spread out until Blood Feast is about to be cast. At that point, you'll want the entire raid to stack up near the boss. One player will become immobilized and have a red circle around them. After 10 seconds, everyone in the red circle will have their stacking dot from the wave removed. An ad will also spawn and need to be tanked. It does mind-numbing chatter which does raid-wide AoE and interrupts you for 3 seconds, so keep an eye out for this. Its health and damage done will be increased based on how many people were stacked up in the red circle. If you have a good DPS, you can spawn 2 of these and ignore them, then deposit the 3rd orb as the 3rd ad is spawning. If your DPS isn't there yet, you can split your raid up so that not everyone is clearing their stack in each circle, or you can have everyone burn down the 1st and maybe the 2nd ad but leave the 3rd ad alive until the 3rd orb is deposited. Once the 3rd orb is deposited, the boss and any ads will be stunned for 24 seconds. You should be stacked up to help out your healers, and this is a good time to pop your offensive cooldowns because you want to get the boss down to 20% to start phase 3. If you can't do that, depending on how close you got, you can either assign a 3rd orb running group or just burn the last bit of health he has to push phase 3. At 20%, the boss takes less damage for 20 seconds. Avoid the ceiling that is collapsing. The further away you are, the less damage you take. If you can get to 20% without cooldowns, pop them once the boss starts taking normal damage in phase 3. In this phase, you do not run any more orbs, but do continue to stay spread out 5 yards, and tanks continue to swap when the boss has 4 stacks of his buff. When G'huun does gaze, look away from him or you'll get feared. On heroic, a set of mushrooms will spawn around the room and shortly explode, hitting anyone within 8 yards, so get to a safe spot. Your safe spot will soon spawn a 2nd set of mushrooms, so get to a new safe spot. Once you get to your 2nd safe spot, try to spread out, because shortly after you get here, the boss will cast gaze, and then immediately after do Wave of Corruption. Any stacks of the dot you have coming into this phase and any stacks you obtain in this phase cannot be cleared. Your defensive cooldowns will be used during the 24-second stun. Make sure you have some available as well during the last phase because the stacking dot will start killing your raid off. That was a too long didn't read guide for G'huun. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching and have a lovely day.